my story is not typical. So, I mean, this might be a little interesting for these young women to listen to, but I actually was never interested in politics, never took a poli-sci course in university. In fact, and you guys could plug your ears for this part because you might not listen to it, and your teacher is probably going to be thinking, why did we bring her of all people? But I did really well in high school. My highest mark was like a 99. My lowest was an 80 something. And I got into university and totally bombed university. I took 6 years to finish a 3-year degree. I graduated with a 1.58 GPA. That is not the goal you want to set for yourself. Saying that right now, it closes a lot of doors when you have a 1.58. But I realized, I guess, after university and, I had got married, had my first daughter at 24, that, oh my God, I really messed this up, but at least I finished, and now I need to do something with my life. So I went back and did an 4th year undergraduate research course, and ended up really falling in love with the research and doing really well in the course. So I was, 24 with a daughter and a husband, and I was doing this 4th year research course. And all the people around me were like, oh my God, Celina, you want to go to the bar after work? And I'm just like, no, I gotta go. I'm a real functioning adult right now. I need to go and do adult stuff. And so really fell in love with it, was a research assistant, a research student, then a research assistant, research coordinator, did my first MBA, wanted to get a job as a research manager, and I was told that I didn't have enough managerial experience and I was overqualified with an MBA. So it's overqualified, not enough experience. And so I started my own company. And up until this point, again, no politics involved at all. And I was actually doing a lot of research around neurological conditions and cognitive neurorehabilitation, and looking at Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and epilepsy, and ended up doing a lot of research management around those conditions. And just before I got into politics, was working on as a co-chair of Canada's first national epidemiology study on neurological conditions. So really looking at the scope, impact, factors, health service factors for conditions that I'm sure touches many of us in the room, epilepsy, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, MS, MD, and looking at those conditions and really looking at the research and how the research could translate into policy. So if you're understanding that, people with Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, their caregiver, their families have a lot of burden on them, how could we use that data to inform policy? And I was taking all that data and I was giving it to someone else, the GR person, the government relations person. And that person was going to figure out what policy to ask our government. And I thought, that's kind of interesting, and put a little pin in it, because I was like, I'm giving somebody else the opportunity to do something that I could influence. And then in the middle of doing that project, I was doing my second MBA, and it was an executive MBA. And the professor asked, part of a politics course of that MBA program, what kind of political capital we had as business leaders who can influence the way our business translates in terms of government policy. And I just thought, I don't know anybody in politics. I'm not even interested, but I want to. And I just thought, you know what, let me sign up. Let me become a little bit civically engaged. My eldest has just finished law school in the UK. She's 21 and she's dying to go back to the UK, but it's like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. You can't. And so she was very active in her Model UN and those kind of political groups at school. My 16-year-old, who I mentioned, goes to Trafalgar, a highly political. She's one of the reasons I was at the protest. So really political. So I thought, okay, mom, come on, time to mom up. Let's get involved here. And so I became a member of the Liberal Party of Canada. I've always voted Liberal, not really sure why, but I thought, might as well. And that was in February of 2014. So the first time I've ever been civically engaged at all was in February of 2014, getting a membership for $10.
Yeah.
And send you all these emails. And on March 8th, I got this email. So like less than a month later, I get this email that says, invite her to run. Do you know a woman who'd be interested in running for the Liberal Party and being involved at the federal level? And I was just like, oh, hell yeah. I'll do that. So I replied back, I'm like, hi, Justin Trudeau. I would love, not even realizing that, no, lady, the email's not going to Justin. I'm like, do not reply email message. So yeah, and then the rest is history from there. And I guess the long and the short of it is, one, I didn't let my mistakes in university or any other part of my life define who I was and where I was going and how I was going to achieve whatever form of success, what that means. Number two, every single thing I learned up until that point, up until February 2014, that had nothing to do with politics, had everything to do with politics. So one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about activism is because I know how much government policy influences people that need it the most. So whether I'm talking about mental health services, or I'm talking about brain conditions, which is, you know, the brain is not divided into your mental health side and the neurological side. It's just one brain, right? And it does all the same stuff. So I'm passionate about the brain. I'm passionate about vulnerable communities, whether that's our seniors, racialized communities, indigenous communities, people with disabilities, different sexual orientation, like too old, too young. These marginalized groups based on usually are disproportionately women who are impacted and their different intersecting identities. I'm really passionate about that because I know the tremendous impact that policy has on either further marginalizing people or creating some kind of equity. And I think that I've had a very large and loud megaphone over the last 4 years, and people keep inviting me to like speak into them. So I don't want to say the things that are usually being said. I want to be provocative. I want to be the disruptor. I want to be the, well, they call me the bad word, SH bad word. I can't say it with these impressionable young minds, but the SH disturber, right? And I'm like, fine, call me that. If I was a man, you'd be calling me a disruptor. You'd be saying, oh, she's so just, you know, this is so great. It's innovative. It's disruptive. It's, you know, it's provocative. But for a Black woman, it's something else. But I think we don't have a choice right now. We don't have a choice, no matter what your political affiliation, no matter what your background. I think everybody in this room right now has a certain degree of privilege. And if we're not going to use our voice at the very least to, in response to that privilege, then what are we doing? That's the long and the short of my story. I don't know how long you want. I don't want to just ramble on because I don't know if the young women have questions or you have questions. Right. So I think the first thing that we need to do and to recognize, and I was on CBC yesterday. Was it yesterday? No, it was 2 days ago.
Saturday.
These days are just so long.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like George Floyd was murdered less than a week ago. And it feels like I've lived 100 weeks in that short time period. The first thing I think that we need to recognize, and our Indigenous brothers and sisters have been very active in bringing forward the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And I want people to really understand the sequence of those words. It's truth and reconciliation. It's not reconciliation and truth. Mm-hmm. And what we need to understand is if we're not willing to accept truth, then we'll never get to a point of reconciliation. So, and it's not up to me to how you interpret or how you respond to that truth. Not my problem. The truth is the truth. Not my problem how you respond to it. The truth is the truth, and I'm going to say it the way it is. I think what we need to recognize as allies, as citizens of the world, as human beings, is that those stories, they matter. And they don't matter because the US headlines are, consuming a lot of oxygen, which the US has been doing for a very long time. It consumes all this oxygen, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, things are so bad in the US. Oh my God, over there, it's so bad. Stop, just stop it and bring it right here. Bring it into a Canadian context, because we don't need American headlines to tell us how bad it is here in Canada with our Indigenous brothers and sisters, or with our Black communities, or with racialized communities, or with women, or with, persons with disabilities. We're seeing right now a lot of conversations about COVID and how the persons with disabilities, their sort of voice is lost in this whole conversation. So I think what we can do is understand, number one, the historical context that has brought us to our present day reality. Okay, racism didn't just show up. It's been in our policies, it's been in Canadian history, it's been in our story, it's been in our whole lineage. What I needed to understand when I went to Parliament was that Parliament was never built, designed, or thought of that women would be there, or that Black women would be. It was never designed for us. There's no dress code for women in Parliament today. So I could show up in my jeans, and I have done that just to prove a point. I could show up in my jeans and in a t-shirt, and I've done that to prove a point that they never expected us to be there. So we continue to try to fit into a narrative that never was designed for us as women of color, as Black women, as women with disabilities, as people of different sexual orientation. It wasn't designed for us. So number one, understand the truth. Number two, understand that it wasn't designed for you in the first place, so don't try to fit into their narrative. It's not gonna happen. It wasn't designed for you. So when they say that I'm a mad Black woman, I'm loud, I'm a SH disturber, I'm disruptive, good. Because I designed my own narrative, right? So I think we use our voice, we get loud. The world has no time for you to be small. Any idea that you have that you think, oh, this idea is too small, it's not gonna make an impact. Yes, we need all of them. We need all the ideas to combat this populism, this racism, all the isms, right? And I think the last thing is make it uncomfortable. I mean, I said some things on CBC that I know the hate, the trolls, just all the bots just came out. Yeah. But you have to be provocative. You have to push people to think differently. Otherwise, we're just going to be doing the same thing, and I'll be having this, or you'll be having a conversation 40 years from now with girls at a private school that they've invited you to come back and speak at, and saying this exact same thing. Mm-hmm. I went to that protest for Rodney King in '92. Mm-hmm. On Saturday, I drove my kids to another protest for the same thing. Am I going to be the woke grandma who drives her grandkids 30 years from now? I don't want to be that person. Yeah. We need to be loud, and we need to use whatever little bit that we have to move change forward. Do we have any other questions? I think the only thing that I would say, especially to young women who are trying to figure out, because it's a lot, like there's a lot happening right now, and it might feel really heavy. So first of all, you're dealing with this isolation. You're not with your friends. You're at school. You're home from school. You're dealing with that. And then it's like, oh my God, if you're not an ally, if you're being silent, you're not an ally, if you're not doing something. And then you feel that pressure, oh my God, I need to say something, I need to do something. First of all, within your own context, you need to understand what is prioritizing for you, right? You need to be you first and authentically who you are first, okay? And there shouldn't be an undue pressure unless you're an elected official, and I'll put pressure on you every day to say something because we pay for your job. But if you're not an elected official, just take it easy and understand that this time that we're living in is crazy without all of this stuff. And if you don't want to consume all of that stuff, don't. I don't turn on the TV. I don't watch the news. I take what I can out of Twitter and social media, and then I put it down and I don't do anything. And then when I get really heated, I get back on it and then I get off. But be well for yourself. But be conscious enough about what's happening that when the time comes that you're ready, you could be activated. Mm.
Mm-hmm. One of the questions I had, I've been glued to CBC all weekend, which is, I saw you and I'm like, well, let's see if I can get it. And then I was listening to Vicky Mochama yesterday as well, and she had asked, what are white people going to do to ensure Black people's safety? And I guess you've touched on that. What can government do? Like, I guess just bringing it back to our politics course too. What can we demand of our government? Does any of this like make you want to get back into politics, run in the next election, or?
So I'll get back into politics, but not right now. I think the one thing that we can do, and it was in the letter that I wrote when I left politics, and I said to women, I know it's unfair that I'm leaving and I'm asking you to run, but I want women to run, but run in packs, run in like packs, like wolves. Be hungry for this. It can't be, I was one Black woman in 338 members of parliament. It was tiring. It was exhausting. When I think about it right now, it's very emotional because there was just so much at me. I was getting it from all sides, and the louder I got, the more I was beat down. I mean, from my own party, that's why I ended up sitting as an independent. It was from the opposition, from people outside, from the Black community, from white, like it was coming from all sides. So like, don't expect that it's just going to be okay. But if you have a passion and a purpose, nothing will deter that. So me being outside of politics doesn't mean that I can't provoke from outside. So number one, being authentic puts you in a typecast. So I'm typecast as this mad Black woman. So, that's a narrative that people are probably going to say about me, and there's nothing I could do about that. At the end of the day, what I'm speaking to and what I'm advocating for is people. And I have a certain degree of privilege to be able to be that person who hasn't worked. I haven't worked since October of last year. I cannot find a job. I am like and I understand that. I understand the consequence that comes with me being a loud person and a provocative person. I understand the consequences that will come with that. And so I'm going to continue being that authentic person. I'm going to continue to be provocative on CBC, even though I know the consequences that are going to come with it. The other side of that equation is, if authenticity comes with a cost, how do you continue to do it when you cannot afford it? You have a village around you. Work with the people that are around you. So if you want to enact some kind of change and you want to get loud about it, but you're going to lose your job, don't do it. But connect with people who you know. So you call Celina, you say, Celina, this is happening at my particular workplace or in my community. I need you to create some heat about this. You know Celina's going to do it. She's already in that boiled water. So don't do it yourself, but connect with people around you who can make that change happen. There are some people that are disruptors. There are some people that are very like slow and steady. There's some people that, just want the sort of standard. We need to be able to utilize all those different resources within our community to make that change in a way that protects us. So it goes back to what I said earlier about protecting yourself and your space, so that when you are ready to be activated to do something, you can do it. Okay, I hope that answered your question. Authenticity has a cost sometimes, and sometimes that cost is a lot. That is okay. Okay? Like the fact that you're thinking about it and it makes you feel like you feel that if you post it, when you are, oh, where'd you go? Oh, there you are now. When you're ready, that's what I said, do what you need to do to remain authentically yourself. When you're ready to be activated at the time that is right for you, you'll know what to do. Okay, if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. And we need as many allies as possible, but the fact that you're conscious enough about your allyship and the fact that you don't just want to post something, you don't just want to follow a fad, you don't want to, do something now and have it disappear tomorrow, that's critically important. At some point you will be activated, and when that time comes, that will be the right time. But don't feel undue pressure to do something that is not comfortable for you right now. Okay? And I know this might go against everything that you're reading. It's like, oh my God, your silence is violence, and both. The fact that you're consciously thinking about it means at some point you'll be ready to be activated. And at that point, that's when we're going to need you. Consequences is what happens with colonialism. If you've seen how when you think about how it's sort of divide and conquer mentality, we cannot afford to do that. We cannot afford, like even within the Black community, oh well, if you're queer we can't talk, and if you're Christian we can, and if you're blah blah blah. Look, right now it's all hands on deck all the time. So the destruction comes from when within your own Trojan horse, you are separating into little Trojan horses. It's stupid. If we don't have all hands on deck realizing that this is not a Black problem, a queer problem, a woman problem, a blah, blah, blah problem, it is a humanity problem. And if you're a human being, it is your problem. And we cannot continue to section things up and say that this is no longer something that I need to deal with. If you're saying it's that you can't deal with it, or that you want to be a part of this group and not another group, you have options, and therefore you have privilege, and therefore you should exercise that privilege with a little bit more discretion. I hope that answered your question. So I know we're at 12 o'clock.
Yeah. This is our last class of the morning. So if there are any other questions, looking at the group, or any final words that you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, I would just say, I just want to say thank you, first of all, for inviting me here. And I just want to say that this is when the history books are written about this moment in time, I just want you to really think about the narrative that will come through in that, because it'll be your generation that is writing this story. And I want you to be engaged enough, and again, keeping in mind that you might not do anything right now concrete, or anything that you think is concrete, but I think you thinking about it is concrete. Being engaged is concrete. Listening is concrete. So that when you're writing those history books, when you are retelling the story of this moment, you do it with empathy. You do it with a certain degree of understanding. Oh God, I'm getting emotional. You do it with a certain degree of understanding for what people, not those people, just people are going through. What we as a community have seen lynchings our entire existence. And then we see it play out on social media. Just have the empathy, if nothing else, just have the empathy to understand that when you need to write those history books years from now, or when hopefully you're talking about what happened then and not taking your children to a rally or to a protest because it's done and we have equity, when you're talking about it, that you talk about it with the feeling as if it was you that this was happening to. Because as a human race, we don't have a choice but to be all connected. And that's the only thing I'd want you to take away, is to just have empathy.
Well, that was a powerful message to leave off with. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And ladies, all the best. Those of you, I don't know, are they doing grade 13 now? I don't know. Everything's
No.
so up there. With whatever happens after this year, I wish you all the best, and take from my story what you want, leave what you don't want. But life is meant to be lived. It's a roller coaster. Put your arms and legs outside the vehicle and enjoy the ride.